Everything that he knows about his roots is inside this suitcase. Paul Redmond was born in an Irish mother and baby home. Just a few days after his birth, he was given up for adoption. This letter is his only link to his birth mother.
This letter is a personal touch. It's something she wrote, it's something she touched, so it's some sort of physical connection. That physical connection, you might not have a hug or a kiss, but at least you got something to touch and to hold.
Have to meet somewhere else.
These are the survivors of a scandal that is still rocking Ireland. Born in Catholic institutions and still trying to discover their identity and trace their birth parents.
But I often thought...
The seemingly tranquil town of Tuam in Western Ireland, a place that Anna Corrigan just can't seem to forget. This was once the site of a mother and baby home run by Catholic nuns up to 1961. Unmarried women were sent here to give birth. The remains of 796 infants lie here.
This is the list of the children who died in the home. Here, John Desmond Dolan, he died 15 months.
John, her older brother, was born and apparently died here. And then there's William. What happened to Anna's brothers? There is no official grave. For decades, the nuns didn't just hush up the high rate of child mortality in the home. They also humiliated and neglected even the very youngest of children. Anna still doesn't know what really happened to her brothers here.
It's a very strange position to be in because I have one brother here and he has a death cert. So I'm led to believe that he's here. I have another brother who's dead, who doesn't have a death certificate, no reason for death. And I'm also led to believe he's here, but yet he's not on the names of the 796.
These three, Carmel Larkin, Walter Francis, and P.J. Haverty, survived the home in Tuam.
Hello. Hello, Walter. How are you, my dear?
Anna Corrigan met them 8 years ago. Shortly after, the scandal made international headlines.
I was looking at you and Peter and I was kind of saying they could be my brothers because the age profile.
Oh, I see.
You were filling in for me parts. I knew nothing about my mother's thing, something I didn't tell you before I should have.
P.J. Haverty spent almost 7 years in St. Mary's mother and baby home. Then he was put in foster care. Most of the other survivors were given up for adoption.
So they cleared all the office out.
I was one of the lucky ones. I was lucky. I probably was born maybe a healthy baby in that and I survived. It's a frightening place. It's a sad place because I could be in here as well. That's what frightens me.
What was going on in Tuam was being practiced systematically throughout Ireland. Those were the findings of a report published by the Irish government in 2021. An investigation into the country's 14 largest homes up to 1998 revealed that 56,000 women had had their newborns taken away from them and released for adoption. In the ultra-conservative Catholic Ireland of the time, getting pregnant out of wedlock was seen as a sin. In Castle Pollard, there was also a Catholic mother and baby home. Paul Redmond was born here in 1964. The building is long empty, but the home dominates his thoughts. He wants to understand what happened to him here.
That was 58 years ago at the moment, so it brings back a lot of memories because this is where I last saw my mother for the last time, and I've never seen her since.
More than 4,500 children were born in the home in Castlepollard. A Catholic order of nuns ran the institution from 1935 to 1971. Paul Redmond's research shows that the nuns pressured the mothers into signing adoption papers for their children. Paul was separated from his mother shortly after his birth, and he was adopted when he was just 17 days old.
It's very mixed emotions being back here because it's where my life started, and my life could have gone in one of two directions. One was to stay with my natural mother, the other was to be adopted. So this place is like a rail junction with two roads or tracks. And the older I got, the more it was on my mind. Why was I given away? What happened? Is there something wrong with me?
He now knows that his birth mother is called Adeline. She was 20 years old and unmarried at the time. Her parents paid the order 100 Irish pounds to make the baby disappear.
If you were pregnant in Ireland and you weren't married, then you were just a horrible sinner and a penitent, and they would do anything they could to just punish you for that. So it's important that we remember all these things and bear witness and make sure that future generations don't forget.
Paul Redmond has set up a self-help group to make sure that doesn't happen. Today, he has arranged to meet others like himself on the site of the former home.
Yeah. All right, it's good to see you. You guys know Ray.
Good to see you again.
Paul wants to give others the opportunity to confront their past. Almost all the adopted children are trying to trace their roots. Many do not know to this day who their mother was. Missing documents and the nun's stony silence also dogged Lawrence Cloak's attempts to trace his past.
When I started looking and I got in touch with the nuns, and they said, it's very difficult to go back and look for your mother, right? Because she could be anywhere in the world. And it's going to cost money.
Lawrence received this letter from the religious order back then. Paul reads it out to the group.
This is time-consuming and could be expensive, so if you want us to go ahead, we would need help in that area as we are a voluntary society. Well, that's a straight-out lie. We're not voluntary. The Sacred Heart Adoption Society, SHAS, was a professional and registered agency. Ching-ching, baby.
And they got money from the government to look after us.
For 2 years, the nuns kept demanding money from Lawrence and kept fobbing him off. The nuns only revealed his mother's name when he threatened to stop the payments.
And when I was adopted. But I was lucky to come back and find her.
Yeah.
In 1991.
Right.
I found her. I had about 25 years with her.
Good.
With my mother. And I found my father in about 10 years after that. That was a long battle.
For a long time, the survivors were unaware of the scale of this inhumane system. Paul found out that almost 1 in 10 babies born in Castlepollard did not survive.
Literally right between underneath our feet, there's about 245 formal burials and 150 stillbirths, so there's about 400 babies buried here.
Oh.
Paul has written a book about Ireland's mother and baby homes.
Well, you're not getting one now after all these years.
By being adopted, you don't fully 100% fit with your adopted family, and you don't fully fit with your natural family either, because they're gone. So when survivors meet each other, they do sort of feel a sense of kinship, and we all call one another crib mate. And the group has been a huge benefit for everybody in it. Like, people talk about it a lot, about how it's changed their lives and made them feel less lonely and given them a sense of belonging.
Today's survivors are yesterday's unwanted children. The mother and baby home in Tuam was torn down in 1972. Catherine Corliss has a scale model of the building in her living room. The amateur historian brought the nuns' appalling abuse to light. She discovered that the babies' bodies had been disposed of in a disused sewage treatment system underground. She had uncovered one of the biggest scandals in Ireland's history. When Catherine confronted the authorities with what she had discovered, they stonewalled.
Nobody wanted to hear about it. They tried everything to come out against me. Even the people, the perpetrators, of course, tried to stop me. Galway County Council did everything in their power to stop me because they knew what happened. They were responsible. So they did their best to cover up.
While homes like Tuam were run by Catholic nuns, regional authorities were generally responsible for their supervision. One woman against the church and the state, assisted in her research by her husband Aidan. Irish media first reported on the scandal in 2014. Catherine began receiving threats, and that is still going on to this day. But she refused to be intimidated.
I got the mentality that I had to do this, and especially when nobody was listening or wanted to listen. It was as if I couldn't let the babies down. They became real babies to me, and just because they were illegitimate, they weren't important, and I could not understand how a little innocent baby brought into the world could not be important. They wouldn't give them medicine, they wouldn't call a doctor, and they just let them die.
I feel the cold terrible.
The death certificates in particular continue to haunt Catherine.
From records of other mother and baby homes, it is stated that deaths were falsified, that the mother would be told after she gave birth that the baby died, and instead of that, that baby may have been given to a couple from America or elsewhere. It's quite possible that a lot of the babies haven't died at all. That's terrible. Why didn't you come in the back door?
I said you're gone with the dog.
In the course of her research, Catherine has met many of the survivors. Her revelations have changed the lives of P.J. Haverty and Carmel Larkin. She's returned a piece of their identity to them.
It is for him. No, he's a carpenter. That's where you'd have been born, Carmel, in here in the maternity unit.
Okay.
Back here. That was the maternity. And then your poor mother then, after giving birth, she'd be let over here. She was given 7 days rest with the baby. They were allowed to stay in bed at 7 days. And that was it. Yeah. Out then and do all the heavy work that could possibly want of them, scrubbing floors, doing everything.
Birth certificates, adoption papers, letters. For decades, the nuns and the adoption authorities kept all these documents under lock and key.
Everybody was afraid of the priest, afraid of the religion, afraid of everything. They took control on everything completely. And the fact then that they didn't want us to know anything and just hide everything, it was another way of torturing you. There was no investigation as to who did all this damage. Why were them babies put into a dirty old tank? You couldn't take the nuns on anyways, because they had massive amount of money. The government even were afraid to confront the nuns or the church. They could get a top barrister or solicitor in the world, not in Europe. So how would you compete with the likes of that? You couldn't win.
No one was held responsible for the dead babies of Tuam. The order of nuns that ran the home only apologized in 2021 when the government published its report. And that report came too late for many of those affected, who doubt whether the state is really interested in uncovering the truth. P.J. Haverty is now 71. He lives just a few kilometers from Tuam on a small farm. P.J. was just under 7 when he was fostered. But the stigma of being illegitimate has stayed with him his entire life.
So when I came to my teens, that's when life got very difficult for me then. That's when I got the abuse from people. They found out then that I was born outside of wedlock, which is a big mortal sin of Ireland. People just reject you, turn their back to you, and just call your names for no earthly reason, and I couldn't understand why. And all that affected me growing up. Eventually then, I went to a river to do away with myself, because I couldn't take any more alive. I still look back on Tuam and I still have that inside me all the time, like, you know, I really do.
The Irish government has announced compensation plans, but only those people who spent at least 6 months in a mother and baby home will be eligible. PJ Haverty is set to receive €40,000.
We're only getting peanuts, we're only getting a fraction. When you think like those 7 years taken out of my life, locked up what I call a prison, not a home, a prison I call it. 7 years taken out of my life. I don't know anything about it. And your mother taken away from you, that's a crime.
In his early 20s, PJ started looking for his birth mother. He asked neighbors and other locals and discovered that his mother was living in London. At first, they exchanged letters. Then she agreed to meet him. From his mother, PJ discovered that she had never wanted to give him away. For 5 years, she had knocked at the door of the home every day, but the nuns turned her away.
She loved me, she wanted to do everything for me, but she was restricted, she told me. I was delighted then to know that she didn't leave me there because she didn't like me or she didn't want me. But it was nice to know that she did want me and she did everything to get me out. And that was lovely, like, you know. It kind of took a load off your, you know, that you felt you were human. You were part of the human race and everything, like, you know. That you did have a mother, you met your mother and you talked to her and everything. So it meant an awful lot, an awful lot.
In Dublin, Anna Corrigan's search goes on. She still doesn't know for sure what happened to her 2 brothers. She collects everything connected to the mother and baby homes, birth and death certificates, baptism certificates, and investigation reports. Her search has become central to her life. Anna grew up as an only child. She only discovered by chance that she had siblings after her mother's death.
It's like somebody has given you a big bang with a big wooden cudgel or a big wrecking ball. It takes a lot of time to process it. My mother never had told me anything about her time in Tuam home. People didn't discuss it because in a lot of cases in Ireland there was a lot of shame attached to being in a home.
Anna came across a medical report in documents held by the adoption authorities. An entry about her brother John read, "He was a miserable, emaciated child with a voracious appetite and no control over bodily functions."
What happened to this child from birth to 12 months that he ends up in this condition? No control over bodily functions. And if John is dead, I contend he died in neglect and malnutrition.
In 2014, Anna contacted the police. John's cause of death is under investigation. Her brother William is officially classed as a missing person. On the outskirts of Dublin, Paul Redmond lives with his adoptive mother, who he helps look after. His adoptive father is dead. They were open about his adoption.
It didn't really kind of occur to me what adopted meant until I was 7 or 8. And I have a vivid memory of being out in the first McDonald's in Ireland, which had a lot of mirrors at the time. And I remember seeing my whole family in the queue and looking in the mirror and seeing that everybody else in the family had black hair and I had red hair. So that was one of the first times I kind of realised that's what it really means to be adopted. And I knew what it meant to be adopted, but that was the first time it really emotionally hit me.
His adoptive parents didn't know what really went on in the mother and baby homes, so they couldn't answer Paul's questions.
I started searching as a teenager and I was 15. I took my bicycle and cycled into Dublin after looking up the address of the Adoption Society in a phone book. And like an absolute child was there knocking on the door. And of course they just got rid of me.
Paul treasures the result of his search. It took 25 years to track down his mother, Adeline. But on the telephone, she told him that she didn't want any contact. All that Paul has is this letter.
This letter is a personal touch. It's something she wrote, it's something she touched, so it's some sort of physical connection. That physical connection, you might not have a hug or a kiss, but at least you got something to touch and to hold. I did find peace, but a very strange sort of peace. I kind of became numb about the whole thing. You can trace and you can search and you can do this, and you can hassle the government for mountains of paperwork. But at the end of the day, you cannot make somebody want to have a relationship with you. It has to be their choice. They're just like the Pink Floyd song. And I have become comfortably numb. And unfortunately, that is how it has to stay, comfortably numb. There's no more.
PJ Haverty was at least able to meet his birth mother.
I thought from that day on, like, once we had the ice broken and we had met, we'd meet again. But unfortunately, life didn't work that way, it didn't go that way.
Decades of separation cannot be put aside just like that. PJ's mother didn't want to interfere in his life and avoided further contact. 35 years passed before the two of them saw each other again. His mother was 88 and no longer recognized her son. She died shortly afterwards.
The only thing is, I got to meet her, because when I talk to an awful lot of survivors, they've never met their mother. They don't know where their mother even is. So for me, to find my mother, that was a big thing. And not alone that then, but to be able to go to her funeral and see her being laid to rest. So I can consider myself a very, very lucky man to have got that much. Come on. That's it now. Buzz off.
Now PJ would like to find the last piece in the puzzle. Who was his biological father? He hopes a DNA test will shed light on that. Catherine Corliss is helping him.
What do you do? Just...
I'll show you now.
Oh, excuse me.
It's like taking a COVID test, PJ.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you did the COVID test.
I did, but I've nearly forgotten.
Huh?
I'd nearly forgotten how it's...
It's not up your nose now.
No, sorry.
Not up your nose, no.
Yeah.
It's possible. No. Stop talking because that dries you up.
Yeah.
If DNA records of even a distant relative of his father's are held anywhere, PJ will know more.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Catherine gets inquiries from all over the world. She looks for names and contact details of survivors' relatives with the help of DNA test results and online databases.
I feel good if I get answers for them. It's the same thing as to beat the system. A lot of those people who are born in the home, they are not allowed to see their own records, see who their mother is, who their father is. That information belongs to the state, and that is so, so wrong. I get a good feeling if I find something for that family. They're so happy, they're so thankful. I've changed their lives, and what more could I ask?
The results from PJ's DNA test will take a few weeks to arrive. Paul Redmond is concerned with one question above all. Why didn't his mother try to trace him? Not only the long silence of the state and the church are to blame.
Over the years, it kind of emerged that a lot of the mothers had been told that it was a terrible mortal sin to reconcile or have a reunion with their child. That was drummed into them in the mother and baby homes, and it was something that really stayed with mothers because a mortal sin was just the worst of the worst. I mean, it ranks up there with murder. And if you commit a mortal sin, you're doomed to hell for all eternity. It changed my perspective on my natural mother by making me realise that she was a victim, that we were both victims and survivors in a way as well.
In 2018, Pope Francis visited Ireland. As a survivor, Paul was invited to an audience with the pontiff. he asked the Pope to set the record straight about mortal sin.
We ask for forgiveness for all those times in which many single mothers were told that to seek their children, that this was a mortal sin. This is not a mortal sin.
Irish adoption agencies saw a sudden jump in the number of tracing requests after the Pope's announcement.
Of all the things we achieved, that's the one that kind of stays with me the most in some ways. I mean, there were mothers and adoptees in all corners of Ireland, and they'd been living in shame and fear and silence for 30, 40, 50, 60 years sometimes. And finally the Pope kind of said, you're free of all this nonsense. Now, it is a disgrace that the nuns that ran the mother and baby homes have essentially ignored what the Pope said. They haven't taken responsibility. They haven't offered to contribute towards redress for survivors.
Paul's battle continues. He wants the Irish government to pay compensation to all survivors, regardless of how long they were in the homes. He plans to go to the country's Supreme Court if necessary. Anna is still waiting for answers about what really happened to her brothers, John and William.
I'm hoping that I do find my brother. I mean, we're getting older. I'm 67 now this year. So my brother is into his 70s, so time is running out, and there's more of a glimmer of hope there that he is alive. If I meet him, he may not want to know me, but I just want to say, so you're alive, you survived. You look like me, I look like you. I wish you a very happy life, and if you don't want to know, I'm just pleased that life turned out well for you. If you do want to know, I'll be over the moon. I'll bring you home, I'll introduce you to your nieces and nephews, I'll show you my home, show you where I live, bring you to the countryside, show you where our mother was from, bring you to where she's buried, and fill in your pieces, and you can fill in the pieces for me.
The government has now announced it will have the remains in Tuam exhumed. Perhaps this will give Anna certainty about the fate of both of her brothers. PJ's search also still goes on. The DNA test didn't provide any leads about his father's identity.
I have names being told to me, but to really find out would be lovely. But for the other survivors, my heart still goes out to them. There's still a lot of mothers out there still looking for their sons and daughters, want to know where they are, just to hug them, give them a kiss at the cheek, and hopefully one day that'll happen.